Hello, this is Rico Cavella, and this is your Fearless Aging podcast, where in every episode, my guests and we strive to offer you proven tips and strategies that you can implement immediately to help you live a much healthier, more energetic, successful, long life and to never be old. So we're here to inspire you and empower you to become your best self so you can go out and make a bigger positive difference in the world. And we certainly need more people to do that. So before I introduce our expert guest and the title of today's episode, which is one that's going to be really interesting and I'm really excited about, I have a question for you. If you've been wondering how well are you aging, well, I have a solution for you. You can go to my main website, agelesslivinglifestyle.com, and we have an aging quiz where you can take the quiz and then you'll find out how well you are aging. And if you're not aging as well as you were hoped, I offer you a free coaching session to see what challenges you're having, and I'll do my best to get you on the right track so you can age better. So just go to agelesslivinglifestyle.com and you'll see the aging quiz right on the home page. So the title of today's episode is Enjoy the Health Benefits of Fasting Without Actually Fasting. So this is really intriguing. This is something that's going to be really interesting. I think we have a real breakthrough here. So our expert guest is Dr. Chris Rhodes. He is Mimeo Health's chief scientist and CEO. He is a nutritional biochemist focused on health span and life extension and has developed a new nutritional supplement that supports healthy fat reduction, memory, cognition, heart health, reduction in dietary inflammation, exercise recovery, and so much more. He was fascinated by the wide array of clinical benefits of fasting, including improved mood and cognition, balanced immune responses, enhanced energy, improvement in heart and metabolic health, and weight management. So he dedicated his PhD to decoding how fasting works at the cellular level. And his research found that after 36 hours of fasting, the human body produces multiple unique metabolites that work together to activate a protective survival mode within the cells, optimizing their function for longevity. So using a combination of these same natural fasting metabolites, Dr. Rhodes' research team was able to recreate the cellular benefits of fasting without the need to fast at all. That's pretty amazing. So I'm really interested to hear all about this. So Dr. Chris Rhodes, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely, Rico. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I already kind of told people a little bit about, so they already know a little bit
Yeah, you
about
did
you.
my job for me. You did it great.
Yeah. So let's just get right into it. And so we don't need to know how you decided to do this. We already know that. So just tell us about how you first were able to reproduce these natural metabolites.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of this research that went into the development of Mimeo was coming out of what I was doing for my PhD at UC Davis. So what we were looking at there was what actually happens in the human body during a prolonged fast. And when I say prolonged fast, I mean like a really long time, like 36 hours of fasting. So that was more or less in line with what type of fasting you see the best lifespan extension from, which is around alternate day fasting. So we actually had 20 healthy young people, 10 men, 10 women, come into the clinic and fast for 36 hours. So I was everybody's best friend in that study. And essentially what we found was that when people fasted for 36 hours, their plasma functionalities, how healthy their blood was essentially, was dramatically improved. We saw that their plasma was more anti-inflammatory, it was more antioxidant, it was more cardioprotective, and it had much better indications of metabolic health as well. And that was really significant because these were already young, healthy people. And in the nutrition world, when you get an intervention that can actually take young, healthy people and make them, even better, basically maximizing their performance and their functionality, that's like very remarkable, because typically it takes, anywhere in the range of, 4 to 8 weeks to really see a benefit of some kind of nutritional intervention. So this is kind of producing a holistic shift in the body. And that's what kind of, perked our ears up around something really special is happening here. What's going on, and can we figure out what's causing these beneficial effects?
I just wanted to ask you, as you well know, intermittent fasting has become so popular in fashion these days. So do the standard basic thing of intermittent fasting is maybe try and eat within an 8-hour period, so that maybe gives you like about 16 hours. So do you think have you seen even with 16 hours though, is there a lot of benefit to that, or does it really need to be 36 hours?
Yeah, sure. So when you dive into the actual biochemistry of human fasting, there's your glycogen reserves, which are essentially your stored carbohydrates in the body, and a lot of them are stored in the liver, but then they can also be, stored in other organs in your muscle. And to truly enter into fasting metabolism and just be relying totally on your, internal energy reserves and switch over into ketosis, really dive into the full, metabolic switch of fasting. You have to fast for around 20 to 24 hours to really deplete those glycogen stores, get into that metabolic shift. When you look at the scientific data of the style of 16-8 fasting, there are definitely some benefits, especially in effortless weight reduction by condensing that eating window. And there's been evidence of decreased blood pressure, increased metrics of cardiovascular health, lipid and triglyceride and cholesterol control. But you're not going to reap the full benefits of fasting unless you do, at least a 24-hour fast. And then for a lot of, various interesting scientific things that happen, not until 36 hours, not until 48 hours, not until 72 hours.
Yeah. Okay. That was really well expressed. Yeah. Thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Continue.
Yeah, for sure. And just to, kind of to piggyback off of that, one of the major important things that I think a lot of people are concerned about when they are fasting is this idea of autophagy, that cellular cleanup and recycling process. And that is something that definitely doesn't happen until you get into those, longer periods of fasting. So something like a 16-8 and even the 24-hour fast probably isn't going to get you into the zone that's actually going to really enhance autophagy in your body and kind of kick off those protective lifespan extension components. So yeah, that's why we wanted to study a 36-hour fast, to really make sure that people were, going all the way through the fasting process and then some, so we could see what the true benefits of fasting were. So where we were in that story was essentially we were looking at people during a 36-hour fast. We found that when we compared their fasted state to the baseline state, their plasma functionalities were really improved. And we were very curious as to how and why that was happening. So what we did is something called comprehensive metabolomics. So basically just looking at all of the small molecule components of the plasma, finding out, what actually makes it up and what might have changed between one state and the other. And what we found was that there was a unique set of metabolites that were upregulated in circulation during fasting. And when we screened through those metabolites, we were able to essentially find this unique combination of 4 of them that worked synergistically together, that when we took those molecules and actually gave them back to human cells, we could activate all of these same beneficial regenerative pathways and recreate the benefits of fasting, like the anti-inflammatory benefits, the antioxidant benefits, the cardioprotective benefits, without having to put the cells under any kind of nutrient deprivation. And then the really interesting thing there too was that it works in human cells. That's great. We were very interested in the lifespan extension effects of fasting as well, those healthy aging benefits. So we wanted to know what was the long-term benefit, the holistic benefit of actually, taking these molecules. So we did a C. elegans lifespan study, the little nematode worms, great model organism for lifespan extension research. And what we found was that when you take these, the synergistic combination of molecules that was upregulated during fasting, give them back to the C. elegans for their entire life, you can increase their lifespan by 96%. So basically
Wow.
almost doubling their lifespan without
Right.
any fasting at all, like no caloric restriction, no fasting, just normal eating, and then supplements with these natural molecules. So it was really, really impressive.
Yeah. Let me ask you, I've always, we've always heard, that the only thing that so far that we can almost say for sure that would increase your lifespan is to decrease your calories. But then again, I mean, there hasn't been any really long enough studies to see in humans. So we know it works in animals, but does that really correlate to humans? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one of those questions that you're never totally going to be able to answer, right? Because there's never really going to be a full, like tightly
Yeah.
controlled, holistic study of human aging where you're taking someone from birth to death and, they're in controlled environments and you're seeing what
Right.
works, what doesn't.
Right.
But there have been large scale studies like the calorie study around people who are doing like pretty severe caloric restriction. If the typical American diet is around 2,000 calories a day, these people who are in this study are eating maybe 1,200 calories a day. So like a really big reduction in daily caloric intake. Or that's like on the very high end of the spectrum. On the low end of the spectrum, you can get people who are doing 20% decrease in 20% decrease in the actual food intake, or 50% increase or decrease, sorry. And what you see there is essentially that there are the same kind of health span benefits to caloric restriction. Their metabolic indices are really improved. Their like their grip strength and their frailty is improved. And you have a lot of benefits from doing the caloric restriction. There's just a recent paper that came out showing that people in the calorie study also had a reduced biological age versus people outside of the study. So they could on average had around a 2.5 to a 3 year difference in their biological age throughout the course of tracking this study.
Yeah, very interesting. And also it just seems logical, because we definitely know when you overeat, it causes a lot of problems, and your body will let you know too when you overeat how you don't feel well and you're so sluggish, and we know when you overeat, obviously, we have such an obesity problem in America, so we know that overeating too many calories is definitely harmful to your health. So it stands to reason that if you control your eating, and under eating would go to the opposite direction, would be helpful for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, coming from a nutrition background, I'm very, very much in tune with everything that's going wrong with the American diet, right? And I think that you do have this big problem of, in developing countries, you have a problem of undernutrition, but in
Mhm.
developed countries like the US, you definitely have a problem of overnutrition, right? And
Yeah.
not just the actual amount of calories that are coming in, that's too much, but also the
Right.
frequency of the meals that are probably too often. The
Yeah.
typical Western diet has 3 meals a day, plus snacks. So we're kind of always in this fed state, essentially. And just by nature of, being in that fed state, you're not really allowing your body time to get back to baseline, because it takes around, on average 4 to 6 hours for even a single meal to be fully cleared, quote unquote, from your system and like fully processed. So if you think about the typical pattern of eating for an American, it's going to be breakfast, lunch, dinner, and probably a little snack bar in between any of those places. So you're always kind of just on this uphill track of putting more and more food into your body without ever really letting your body have time to recover, and
Mhm.
that can cause a lot of postprandial inflammation, especially if we're eating more pro-inflammatory foods. And then that then leads to kind of this almost chronic activation of the immune system that leads to then chronic inflammation. And then, chronic inflammation kind of underlies these cascading negative effects that happen almost in all disease states. So that overnutrition state can really contribute to a lot of negative consequences, especially in the long term. So even just, reducing that frequency as much as we can is going to be really beneficial.
Yeah, well, you expressed that really well. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so then when you determined that what was going on and you learned all about the fasting thing, so how did you decide how are we going to develop some natural metabolites that we can create a nutritional supplement?
Yeah, absolutely. So like one of the cool things about what we were doing in this study that you don't really see a lot in just the longevity space in general is in the longevity space, typically people take a bottom up approach. So they'll start their research in model organisms like C. elegans. And then if they find something interesting there, then they'll try to convert it up into larger animal models like a mouse. And then after that, kind of, hope that it has some kind of effect or context within human biology. But we thought, that's an odd system scientifically, right? You're kind of doing a lot of leapfrogging and hoping you're going to get a good result out of it. We wanted to take a kind of top down approach where if we want to find something that's going to be beneficial for human biology, you should start off by studying actual people and figuring out what makes the actual body tick, and is there a way that we can activate these basically evolutionarily designed regenerative pathways within our own body that take care of us much better than say a foreign molecule like a plant extract would ever really know how to do, because it has those thousands of years of evolution that are behind it. So, that's why we ended up studying humans in the first place. And that's why our formulation ends up using those interesting, human metabolites, because they have essentially been designed over thousands of years of evolution to have a specific role and function within the body. So not only are they, safe natural molecules that your body already recognizes, knows exactly how to process, but they're also super effective because they already have a designated function in the body. And even more than that, with the formulation that we're currently working with, they work synergistically together to kind of activate this holistic, quote unquote, bio program of fasting.
I think it was really smart too to do your testing on healthy individuals, because as we know, if someone who has a lot of health challenges or really unhealthy, lots of interventions can make a big difference for them right away, because their body's so depleted. But when you get some results with people that are already healthy, I think that's really significant. I think that was really smart of you.
Right, exactly. And I think that that's the really cool thing about just fasting in general. When you look at it from, what is fasting actually doing in the body? What was it meant to do from a, almost a survival point of view, right? When you're not fasted, it's basically an evolutionary signal to the body that the environment around you is really replete in nutrients. So there's a bunch of food and resources around. That's sending a signal to your cells that, okay, I don't really have to be all that conservative with my energy usage. I don't really have to care that much if damage is accumulating, because I have all of these resources around me that I can just, if a protein is dysfunctional or an organelle is dysfunctional, like whatever, I can just make a new one. If a cell gets damaged, whatever, I have the resources, I can just make a new one. I can just, pump out anything that I want to and just function kind of dirty almost. But when you're fasting, that's essentially a signal to your cells that there isn't a lot of food in the environment, right? And I'm not going to have all the resources that I need to be able to make new components or make new cells if damage happens or something goes wrong. So it really turns on this holistic process of not only energy conservation, but regeneration and protection. And that's, where autophagy comes into play too, because it's really taking these damaged, dysfunctional organelles, breaking them down into their component parts, and then releasing them back into the system so that we can then make new functional ones. So kind of clearing out all of the, the bad cell junk that was there, kind of clogging up cellular function and, leading to some negative consequences. And then like returning the cell to kind of its peak optimal form so that it can, survive long enough and we can function well enough to get to a new environment where then we can find food and, be raring to go.
Yeah, again, yeah, I love how you explain that really, really well. Uh, so tell us then how you began to develop your product.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I described before, the actual, studying human beings in the 36-hour fast, that was, the initial clinical study that we did where we discovered the synergistic molecules that are upregulated during fasting. And ultimately, that is the formulation that then became Mimeo. So we were really enthusiastic about the cellular effects. We were really enthusiastic about the C. elegans effects. But of course, we wanted to be as translational as possible, right? That whole philosophy of, finding an intervention that is designed from humans for humans. We wanted to make sure, does this, combination of molecules actually work within a human being? So we just recently performed a pilot clinical study. And what we did for that was essentially we had people come in, those same thing, young healthy people. We had them come in and eat a standardized breakfast on its own alongside a placebo control, or we had those same people come in after a 1 week washout period, eat that same standardized breakfast, but then with supplementation with Mimeo. And what we found was that when people ate the standardized breakfast alongside the placebo, you have this very classical like loss of those plasma functionalities that we were talking about before. So their plasma became more pro-inflammatory, it became less antioxidant, their cardioprotective ability went down, their cholesterol efflux ability went down. And then of course you have all the metabolic chaos of the triglycerides going everywhere, the insulin levels going everywhere. But what we found with supplementation with Mimeo was that we were able to prevent that loss of function that happened in the what's called the postprandial state, and actually add gains of function on top of that that then mimicked those beneficial effects that we saw during fasting. So instead of being pro-inflammatory, their plasma became anti-inflammatory. Instead of being non-antioxidant, their plasma became very antioxidant. Their cholesterol efflux ability was really increased. So basically what we found, in this acute little study was that when you take Mimeo alongside of a meal, you can basically prevent a lot of these negative effects of eating. And that's within, hours of taking it. So there are not only long-term benefits as we saw in the C. elegans, but then there are also these short-term benefits as well of helping to keep your body in metabolic homeostasis and then produce these beneficial plasma effects as well.
Wow. Well, as you well know, so many people are really are interested in, well, what they call weight loss. I don't like to call it weight. It's not about weight, right? It's about reducing the excess body fat. So do you have some studies that people have, by taking your product, have really been able to reduce their body fat?
Right. So one of the molecules that we have in the formulation is oleoyl ethanolamide, which is a fun mouthful. When you get into the when you get into the different metabolites in the human body, a lot of them have like weird and esoteric names, but it sounds intimidating. But it's actually a pretty fun molecule. It's involved in the gut-brain axis, where it actually stimulates satiety and helps to reduce appetite. And while we didn't do this study ourselves, there is clinical evidence out there that oleoethanolamide can actually, help people naturally reduce weight and then control a lot of metabolic health markers like the triglycerides, the cholesterol levels, inflammatory markers like circulating cytokines, TNF alpha, IL-6. And through the appetite suppression, actually help these people kind of naturally lose weight.
Does that come from palm oil? Is that where it comes from?
So oleoethanolamide is a derative of oleic acid. So you actually find a lot of it in olive oil as well.
Okay. All right. So again, so tell us exactly how did you produce your product? It's all plant-based. It's a natural plant-based product.
Yeah, absolutely. So, because these are all natural human molecules that are kind of, essential for just general cellular function, that means that yes, we can find them within our body. Our body naturally produces them. But they're also found, in the plant world as well. So something like the nicotinamide that's in there, that's a vitamin B3 derivative. The spermidine that's in there, that's an arginine derivative, coming from just, amino acids. Then palmitoyl ethanolamide is coming from palmitic acid, which you could find in, a lot of vegetable oils or palm oil. And then the oleoyl ethanolamide that we were just talking about is an oleic acid derivative, which, you can find in olive oil or a lot of other, healthy fat kind of sources.
So how long has your product been on the market? I mean, do you have a lot of consumer testimonies?
Yeah, we've been on the market for around a month and a half now, and we've done
Oh,
some.
just oh,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
we're very new. It's a like hot technology right off the presses kind of
Yeah.
situation. And we've gotten like great initial feedback from folks. We've had a lot of people who can kind of feel the immediate benefits of the product. Like I said before, there are actual effects that are happening in your body immediately after taking it, and then the long-term benefits as well. We've had folks who um, have seen really good enhancements in mood and cognition, as well as sports performance. We've had a lot of people who have taken this before exercise and found that they can set personal records on their cycling course, or that they'll have reduced soreness after marathon running or intense weight training. And then we've also had people who have come to us with like pretty severe like arthritis. And what we've seen is that it was very good for like symptom ablation and helping to relieve pain, which is one of the main mechanisms of palmitoyl ethanolamide, one of the other ingredients in the formulation. So, we've had great responses and feedback so far, lots of energizing effects, mood enhancement effects, then like that ease of discomfort, and then helping to control or balance the inflammatory responses as well.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds really good. It's really exciting. Well, I'm sure. Well, let me ask you. You know how unfortunately how so many people they just want to take a pill and they don't want to do anything else with their lifestyle.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, I'm sure you still recommend it that even though if they get your product and begin to take your product, so they don't just think, okay, I just have to take this new Mimeo pill and I don't have to stop eating,
Right,
overeating,
right.
or exercising and all that.
Yeah, I definitely do not want to be the guy who's out here being like, yes, take this
Yeah,
pill and you can
yeah,
have burgers and donuts and pizza forever.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's definitely an adjunct to a healthy lifestyle. And actually, I still encourage people to fast, right? So, our formulation is a combination of these four synergistic molecules that we kind of found to be the most powerful out of this data set of, metabolites that were moved around by fasting. But fasting itself is still going to create more of that holistic change, and is going to like increase not only these four beneficial ones, but that whole host of other beneficial metabolites that are in that system, that are again all working together in this synergistic fashion to really activate that full bio program of fasting. And what else I would recommend too is that 36 hours of fasting can be very, very intimidating for people, right? Even
Yeah,
4 hours of fasting, even 16 hours of fasting can be
yeah,
intimidating for people.
yeah,
But this product can actually be very helpful for that, because if you're doing something like, the 16/8 style of fasting, like we talked about before, you're getting some benefits from doing that, like, that reduction in postprandial inflammation, kind of, giving your body a break, letting it go back into homeostasis. But you're not, reaping the full benefits of a 36-hour fast. So this can actually be a really good adjunct to that you can take it alongside your fasting to help give you, the benefits of a longer term fast in a shorter fasting window. And then beyond that, just because of the effects of the product itself, it can actually help make fasting easier, because you have the appetite suppression effects, you have the mood elevation, you have the energizing effect. So, it helps keep you happy, not hangry, and just going about your day motivated and focused on, task oriented stuff until you're ready to eat, rather than kind of like just constantly counting the minutes.
yeah. That's so good. Yeah. I think we want our audience to know, that also, as we mentioned earlier, it's still going to be beneficial to reduce your amount of intake and calories. Most people, we eat a lot more than we need to eat. But also, and again, how most people are so focused on weight loss, so they want to take your product because they're going to, which will be helpful, but it has a whole array of other health benefits, really, that's going to be really helpful, really valuable for them. So, I have to commend you for your great work and your efforts. I think this sounds to me like you've come up with a real breakthrough that's going to be really valuable for people, and we'll definitely put how they can contact you, and now people can order your product online.
Yeah, absolutely. So we
Okay.
are, we have our site up and launched right now. We're mimeohealth.com, Mimio, for those that can't see my nice little branded screen over here. And then for the podcast itself, we're offering a special promotion for all the listeners who are getting in early and helping us build our community. And that's going to be, our promo code is ageless10, and that'll give you 10% off your first purchase.
Very good. So we'll definitely put that information in that link and description, the show description. Well, Chris, I found this really interesting, and you really expressed it so well. And again, I want to commend you on your work, and I think you've really created something that can be really valuable. So I really appreciate your time here. So, what last thing would you like to tell our audience?
Well, what I would love to tell your audience is to, take a shot and give us a try. I really believe in fasting. That's one of the reasons why I made this product in the first place, because I do think that it's just an
Yeah,
amazing, interesting system, and
yeah,
being able to kind of harness this evolutionary power that we have within our own bodies and put our biology under our control is something that's so special and so unique. And I really want to help empower people to essentially be the best versions of themselves. So come on down, like try the product, give us a
yeah.
shot, and like email me, right? Give us your feedback. We really want to hear it. We really want you to not only experience the benefits, but be a part of our community and help us help you essentially.
Yeah, really, again, really well said. Yeah, we'll put your email, how you can contact Dr. Rhodes as well. We'll put that in there. And yeah, I just want to say, as always, and that's one of the main messages of our Fearless Aging podcast, is that uh, we have to take responsibility for your own health. We have to step up and take responsibility, and we can live a much healthier, longer, productive life. But we have to get educated, and we have to take responsibility and commit to taking action. So I always like to end most of my podcast by saying, knowledge without action is useless, right?
Yeah.
So we always give you, yeah, we always give you lots of good information and lots of ideas and concepts that can really help you improve your life. So you just got to step up and take action. So I highly recommend that you will go and check out Dr. Rhodes's website and his new product. I'm certainly going to do that. And so once again, Dr. Rhodes, that was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Rico. This was a fun time.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So if you enjoyed today's episode, give us a good review and tell your friends about the Fearless Aging podcast, and go out and become your best self and make it a better world for all of us to live in.
Love it.